All right, everybody, it is time for me to give my early thoughts on Rogue Trader. You know, it's everything I wanted it to be. It's super complex. It's Owlcat at their finest. I think if you're someone who is coming off of Baldur's Gate 3 and you're looking for a new CRPG to sink your teeth into, this might be one that you want to consider. It's out on all platforms right now. I've got it here on the PC. And I can confirm, at least from my end, I don't know where I put it, but it does have controller support, which is freaking amazing. That was the big thing for me, was knowing that it had controller support out of the gate, because I ended up playing Baldur's Gate 3 like 95% on the controller once it launched, and I only ended up using mouse and keyboard for a little bit. I'm still learning the game a lot here, so I've been using mouse and keyboard, but I've been testing the controller out behind the scenes, and more than likely I'm going to start doing more controller stuff during the live streams as well, and I'll make videos around controller guides and everything else as we get deeper into things like I do with all the other games I play. But let's just talk why I think this is a great game for you to play, why I think you should be jumping on this after Baldur's Gate 3. If you're wrapping up your third, fourth, fifth playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 and you're like, man, I wish there was something else good to play, I don't know what's out there right now, you need to consider this game because it's a great turn-based CRPG. It's a little bit slower than Baldur's Gate 3. And no, I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. I just love the game, and I think you'll genuinely be excited about it if you like those styles of games. Now, this is obviously a completely different world and lore. This is sci-fi as opposed to fantasy. It's almost like, I've never been into Warhammer a lot, so I knew of it, but I've never played the tabletop. I've dabbled in a couple of the other games that they've put out over the years, but I've never really gotten into Warhammer as a series. This is the game that's getting me into it because they've got this incredible codex here in the game where you can go through and just learn tons and tons and tons of information about what do you want to know about? It's like there's like a player's handbook just within this. So there's a lot of lore in here about all these different things that you might want to go through if you're wanting to learn more about the Warhammer universe. But one thing that's important to understand is that the rule set here is not a play-by-play of the Warhammer lore, the Warhammer rules from tabletop. This is an adaptation, I think is the way. I saw an interview that was done a couple months back where they were saying that this is kind of like their take on Warhammer. So I would consider this to be an adaptation as opposed to a faithful rule set specific. Kind of like, Baldur's Gate 3 was mostly 5th edition with a couple of things that they took out, like Dispel Magic, because that would have broken the game. This is less true to the Warhammer roots and more of just Owlcat sort of doing what they needed to do to flesh it out to make it great for a CRPG. They added some additional class information, and they've sort of tweaked things here and there. But I think for me, it's definitely slower than Baldur's Gate 3. If you look at the combat, and I'm not going to show any combat in this particular thing because we're just talking early thoughts right now. The combat's definitely a little bit slower, but if you are into turn-based, that's going to be okay because it's going to be something you're used to anyway. But it's definitely slower than Baldur's Gate 3. I would say, having just came off of Wasteland 3, I would say it's more of the Wasteland 3 style, like in terms of speed and everything else. And one of the things I absolutely love about this game is we have a 6-person party system. So I've got 6 individual people in my party here. And going through, I've got my main character, Renfail, who's a ranged character, a soldier. I've got Pascal, who is for all intents and purposes, he's a these are like space mages, but psychers / the archetype they call themselves is operative. So I've got a couple of operatives. He's one of them. I've got Abelard, who's a warrior. Idira, who's an operative. Argenta, who is another marksman / soldier. They used to be called marksmen in beta, now they're called soldiers. But it's just a ranged character. And then I've got another warrior in Heinrichs, and he's like a cross between like a warrior and a mage, so he's kind of got a little bit of both. And the cool thing is like if you go in here and you can see on the left-hand side here behind my head if I step out of the way here, this right here is there's tons of information. Like if you've ever played Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 and gone into the depth of what they provided there with all the different types of like armor classes and different types of weapons and slashing, piercing, crushing, all that complexity. A lot of that is in here. And then you'll notice here like all these percentages and things like your deflection and your armor and your dodge and all these other things. Armor and all everything affects everything. So it's a great game if you like getting into that kind of stuff and in depth. And there's also your weapons and the types of abilities you can do with their weapons. There's a ton of stuff going on here with lore and everything else, and your characters need to have the right lore percentages to understand about them. So there's Imperium lore, Warp lore, and Xenos lore, which is basically alien lore. There's tons of information in this game. There's a really complex leveling system here, and then this is like the faction system, or not the faction, but the reputation system. So you can go like Iconoclast, which is like goody two shoes. Then there's Dogmatic, and then there's Heretical. So these are just based on the decisions you're making in conversations, as opposed to if you're a good guy or a bad guy. So there's that going on. There's also, on top of all of this, you have a complex inventory system and gear management system where you have all these different things. This is my character, by the way. Absolutely freaking love the look of him, especially when I take the helmet off. He's a crime lord, man. That was his background, but he's got like his Guardians of the Galaxy helm. Lots of different types of armor and everything else, and beyond that, we can get into the journal system. The UI looks really good, but then there's this, right? So this is a whole nother aspect of the game that I personally haven't even gotten to yet. I never even got there in the beta because I was too busy doing lots of builds and testing and everything else. But you have a ship, and there is ship-based, turn-based ship combat in this game. I said that way too many words in there. There is turn-based ship-to-ship combat in this game, and your ship has an engine, shields, auspics, armor, if I can move, port, starboard, dorsal, prow, all these different things that you can slot in here. And then you can upgrade the ram, you can upgrade the hull, all these different things. There's also the types of weapons and everything else, that you can have. You can go in here into the upgrade system, and there's this whole system that's just like the classes. So just as much as you can, upgrade around the wheel with your chosen archetype or your class, you get to choose abilities here as you level up your flagship, and then you can have different people in different slots to do different things. So there's this whole aspect of the game that's about ship-based combat, which I haven't even gotten into yet. So this is another layer of complexity on top of everything else that's already here. So it's just, like I said, I think if you're someone who enjoys super in-depth mechanics and turn-based gameplay and really rich lore, then you're going to like this game. I think you'll actually love this game. I am. I love it a lot. Closing the interface. Yeah, closing the interface. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. The one thing I will say, and this is, I know some people have, I think in the interview I was reading, some people had asked, well, how does this compare to Baldur's Gate 3? It doesn't. It is a lesser scope game, so it has lots of cutscenes, but they are not these cinematic cutscenes of Baldur's Gate 3. There's no motion capture in this game. There's none of that. This is just your typical old animation style, and it works. It's very simplistic, but it works. And you also get a lot of the old where you get a pop-up and it shows you like a book and you're reading, and then you make decisions and that it fills it out, kind of like you saw in Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, and also in the Pathfinder games that Owlcat did before this. So the only thing I will say after, this is my early thoughts video, the only thing I will say that has been a negative so far has been the fact that the voice acting is extremely, it's really weird the way they've done it, because sometimes they have it and you'll be going along with a fully voiced game and all the characters are voiced, and all of a sudden you'll hit this wall of like nothing where there's no voice acting, and suddenly you're in a void. And sometimes there's scenes where you would think it was supposed to be voice acted because it's like a main sequence, but it's not, and then you'll get like a side quest and suddenly everything's voiced again. So it seems very haphazard, the components that are voiced versus the components that aren't fully voiced. And I have to wonder if maybe this is a bug, or maybe this is just the game that the way the game's meant to be played. I don't know. I haven't dug into it enough yet. All I know is that the voice acting has been sort of inconsistent in when it's there or not there. And it's really frustrating because there have been moments where I'm like, we're going along and everything's voiced, and all of a sudden it's like nothing. And I'm like, well, why isn't this voiced? Because this is part of the main storyline. And then we get over here and there's this side quest, and why is this voiced with only two characters? I don't get it. So I don't know what's going on there, but I do know that the voice acting that's here is fairly good. Some characters are better than the other ones. I would say that Idira is probably the best one I've heard so far. She's very emotional, and the actress that they've got doing her voice has done a very good job. Others, Abelard is an example. Sometimes he's hit and miss. So, my early thoughts are, so far for a fun factor, it's a 10 out of 10. Voice acting, maybe a 7 out of 10. Writing's 10 out of 10. The music's absolutely phenomenal. I'm having a lot of fun. Obviously, I knew going into this game that I was going to be playing this throughout the month of December and probably into January, doing a full playthrough and all the guides and everything else that we do for CRPGs. But there's always the what if factor when you start playing a game of like, well, what if they change things in live? What if I don't like it? What if there's things I don't like? So far, I haven't come across anything that I dislike. It's been a very fun game. I love the fact that not only do I have mouse and keyboard, but we also have controller support. So I'm getting used to playing it on the Xbox controller, and I'll be trying that out soon. And yeah, that's my reporting on my early thoughts on Rogue Trader. It's a lot of fun. If you like CRPGs, you should totally try it, especially if you're looking for something to fill in the gaps after Baldur's Gate 3 and whatever's next on your agenda. It's out now on all the platforms. Check it out. Don't forget, I stream daily, 5:30 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central, multi-streaming on YouTube and Twitch. And, of course, lots of guides, games, and movie reviews, and all sorts of other stuff that happen throughout the day here on YouTube. So check it all out. Until next time, everybody, stay safe. Happy gaming.